Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nesi, and right now I want to welcome onto the show two representatives from the advocacy group down in Newport, City by the Sea, opposing the addition of table games at Newport Grand. And they are Liz Tabor and Bob Steele from Citizens Concerned About Casino Gambling. Liz, Bob, thank you for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we heard a few months back from Joe Paolino. We heard about the former mayor of Providence, his pitch. He got the legislation. It's now a fight on the ground in Newport with the voters. But before we talk about it briefly, Bob, people might recognize you because you are, in fact, a former member of Congress.
I was a member of Congress from Connecticut, that's right.
What years?
1970 to 75, and I was a nominee for governor of Connecticut.
Do you miss the day-to-day grind of politics? You wish you were still down there in D.C.?
No.
An easy, succinct answer that I bet we all understand. And Bob actually wrote a book here, The Curse, a novel, which is about basically the concerns about what happens to a small New England town when this casino gambling comes in. Give people a sense, what was the issues you were trying to portray in here about what happens when this comes in?
Well, the book is a cautionary tale in many ways about what happens when the casinos come in. And, you know, Rhode Island officials have used what happened in Connecticut as a strong reason for legalizing gambling here in Rhode Island. But one wonders if they've looked at what's happening in Connecticut recently. Connecticut's casinos are in serious trouble at the present time. They're losing jobs, they're losing income. The amount of money going to the state of Connecticut is down 35%. This, of course, is happening in other places in the country, including right now in Atlantic City. We've had a sharp spike in the number of Connecticut citizens seeking treatment for gambling addiction. Our economy in southeastern Connecticut has been sharply skewed toward low-paying, low-wage service jobs. And those jobs, incidentally, are becoming fewer and fewer all the time. And the casinos are going increasingly to part-time jobs in order to lower overall wage costs and get rid of benefits.
Liz, that's the bad scenario he's seen in Connecticut. So I bet it echoes some of those concerns, but what are the concerns you're trying to highlight to Newport voters about this plan to bring the table games to Newport Grand?
Well, one of the things is that Newport has a very thriving economy. And certainly the history of casinos has been to go into areas that really had very little economic opportunities, were seeking to cover budgetary gaps that they couldn't quite fill any other way, and succumb to the temptation. Once government partnered, in particular, with the gaming companies, suddenly there was massive incentive to move it along. And in Newport, the economy has been thriving. There's limitless opportunities for different businesses to do very well, and gaming seems that it will take from that as opposed to add to the community.
And you referenced one of the concerns there, and I want to put the question to you, Bob, because we hear it constantly from around officials. Gaming, the third biggest source of state revenue. We have to have this money to fund public services, and that's why voters, almost with a gun to their heads, the budget won't be balanced unless you pass it. I mean, what do you make of that argument?
Well, let's think about that for a minute. Rhode Island right now, its general revenue budget depends on gambling for 12% of the money it brings in. It depends on gambling 3.5 times more than Connecticut does. What's going to happen when other casinos come in? For example, Massachusetts, the latest polls, just a poll on the last day, shows that the casinos are well ahead in Massachusetts.
If that's in the referendum on whether to allow
it is,
yeah.
Now, if Massachusetts builds these casinos, what's going to happen to Rhode Island's casinos? If Rhode Island becomes even more dependent on gambling, you're going to have a massive hit to your budget. You're going to have a budget crisis here. So I think that your point is very, very well taken. The fact of the matter is Rhode Island is already far too dependent on gambling. To put a casino or to expand casino gambling in Rhode Island would just make you that much more vulnerable to the decline that's now beginning to happen around the country.
Liz, are there specific concerns that your group has about the Paolino plan, or is this the same? It doesn't matter, you could have the quote-unquote best plan in the world and you'd have the same concerns. Are there specifics in this plan you think are worrying?
Well, it certainly doesn't help. The holes in the plan, there are, in fact, one of the counselors, one of our city council who voted for this plan to move forward and to be placed on the referendum has just come out withdrawing her support from this plan because she said she could not support the inaccuracies of the brochures that were being mailed around to all of the Newport voters, misstating that Newport is guaranteed money. There are no guarantees. Newport doesn't start getting any of the revenues they promise until likely 2018, once they've spent $40 million. There's no guarantee they're going to spend $40 million. We don't get paid until they're complete with the project. I've seen development jobs being a real estate broker that can be dragged out for a very long time. So there's too many gaps in trusting simply what's going to happen here, and without knowing how the Massachusetts vote is going to go, particularly with the Fall River proposal for a $750 million new casino to be built. I think $40 million is a drop in the bucket and lipstick on a pig.
Bob, and I'm sure Paolino will have a comeback on that one as always, but you also hear the argument about jobs. You know, Rhode Island has been hit harder than almost any state in the Great Recession, and Mayor Paolino has said fairly eloquently, this place is going to close if you don't allow me to do this and my partners, and this way not only will it stay and you keep those jobs, we'll be adding more jobs. I mean, what about that argument? What do you think of that?
Well, let's look at the economics of casinos. First of all, according to the best studies that are out there, a casino like the expanded casino that is proposed for Newport, that type of casino's cost to benefit ratio over time to the community is more than 3 to 1. In other words, the costs to the community are more than 3 times the benefits. So first of all, the overall long-term impact, economic impact on the area is negative. Secondly, those jobs are low-paying, low-wage service jobs for the most part. When you take Connecticut, for example, that is the case in Connecticut. And increasingly, as I said, the casinos are laying off people. We're having layoffs at both casinos in Connecticut. They are increasingly going to part-time jobs in order to get rid of medical and other benefits. These are not the kind of jobs you build a strong community or a strong state on. And all you have to do is look at Atlantic City right now, for example. 4 casinos going out of business. They're losing 8,000 jobs in the last few months, given what is happening at the present time. Their grand list is going to be down by some $2 billion. So the casinos initially are quite successful. They're new, they're glitzy. People say, yeah, I got to check this place out, etc. And then they start to decline. And as they decline, as we're seeing in Connecticut, it has a very, very negative impact on the entire economy.
You know, one of the pieces of this that's made news just in, I think the last week or two I've been reading about it at least, is and I want to bring people along with me, there's not going to be a separate ballot question only in Newport, because the whole state has to vote, including Newport, but then in the past we've had a separate question, but do you want them in Newport just for Newport voters? Why is your group and the folks with you upset the fact that it'll just be one merged question deciding the whole thing?
Well, the first issue is trust. There's been very little trust with the way the General Assembly has gone about this. No Newport voters requested this, suggested this, or were informed about it. Our local canvassing board was not informed. Our city councilors were not informed. We actually found out about it when we called just before we ran all of our marketing materials to say vote no on question 8, the local ballot, and found out indeed, no, that's not going to appear on the ballot, and nobody was told about it. It's a very big issue because in particular we found out that there were 250 more votes to reject the casino in the 2012 vote than there were on the state ballot. There are quite a few locals who only vote local. That island mentality still holds strong, and while there seems to be a sense that it was done to streamline the ballot, I'm not quite sure how many other initiatives Mr. Gallison has submitted to streamline other citizens' ballots, but it wasn't appreciated how it was handled, and the impact to Newporters would not be helpful.
All right, that's all the time we have this week. I want to thank Liz Tabor, Bob Steele for joining me to talk about their concern on the table games down in Newport. And of course, we'll all be watching the results as they come in. That's in the November election, not next week's primary for down there, because it lost last time pretty narrowly. So something to watch. Stick with us this week and every week on Executive Suite.